Hi, I'm Ernie Zora for Puritas Springs Software, and you're watching a demonstration video for our new U.S. estate tax application. In this video, I'll take you quickly through a very small estate tax return. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that the screen is divided into two sections. The left side is the tree view, and the right side is the form or document window. The tree view is always in view, and it's there to list the steps as a guideline for completing an estate tax return. The first step is entering some basic information on page 1, which I'm going to do now. I'm only going to put in a few fields. I only want to complete part 1. I don't want to complete the whole page, so you don't have to watch me type the entire section. Not that it would take that long. I'm going to, right now after I enter this one, I'm going to open up a file that I prepared already with part 1 complete. There we go. Now, I'm going to scroll down the page a little bit, and you're going to see that there are tan-colored fields that you can't tab to or click on. They're read-only, and the application will complete those fields by itself. Much of the additional work that we're going to do is going to be done in the worksheets, and we're going to go to that in just a moment. But for right now, I'll be satisfied with just completing part 1, because some of these fields are repeated on almost every page of the return, like the decedent's name and taxpayer ID. Now, I'm sure most users don't need to be reminded to save their work. Early and often is the rule that I've heard, and now that we have a bit of information in the file, I would normally like to click on step 2 to give our new file a name and to save it, but this file, as you've seen, has already been named and saved, so I'm not going to do that. And by the way, this step 2 is nothing more than clicking on the save button. It's a reminder, basically. So the next thing that I want to talk about is the beneficiary worksheet. I've mentioned this before, but you can enter I've mentioned this before in other videos, I should say, but you can enter information on any form in any order. You don't have to go by the steps in the tree view. However, it's usually best to follow the suggested order of data entry, and the beneficiary worksheet is a good example. I'm going to click on the beneficiary worksheet right now, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, the general information section doesn't need much of an explanation because the fields are self-explanatory. In fact, to save time, I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to open a file that already has some beneficiaries in it. There we go. Now, notice the Send To section. It lets you direct the person or entity shown in the general information section to any of the forms listed there. If this beneficiary is receiving more than $5,000, for example, I would check the Form 706, Page 2 checkbox. Now, I'm going to jump out of the beneficiary worksheet, and we'll take a look at Page 2. And I'm going to scroll to the middle of the form here, and you'll see that all the people that are mentioned in the beneficiary worksheet are already entered there already. Essentially, that's the way the application works. It transfers information from the worksheets to the forms. Now, a minute ago or so, I mentioned that the beneficiary worksheet was a good example of why it's best to work in the order suggested by the tree view. As I click on the Asset Debt Worksheet, you're going to see why. And the answer is right there under the description field. It's the beneficiary drop-down list box. I'm going to click on the drop-down box right now, and you'll notice that the list is populated from the beneficiary worksheet. So if you don't enter the beneficiaries first, no one's going to show up on the list, and that's why it makes sense to follow the order in the tree view. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open a file I prepared with the Asset Debt Worksheet already completed. The Asset Debt Worksheet contains all the financial information related to an estate. All the information is in one place. There's no need to look for a particular schedule and then wonder what continuation page the item is on. It's all here. Let's look at the first entry. It's a parcel of real estate. I can send it to the Real Estate Schedule A by clicking on the Send To's Edit button, which I'll show you there right now. Okay. I'm going to close the Send To box, and let's take a look at the Citibank account in row 5, because it's a jointly held asset that belongs on Schedule E, Part 2, and it requires you to enter a bit of information. So in addition to checking the Schedule E Joint with Others checkbox, which I'll click on the Edit button right now so you can see that box is already checked. So I'll close that now. I must also go to the Schedule E Edit button and pick the co-tenant again from the beneficiary list, which is already listed, and finally enter the percentage includable, which I've entered as 100%. That's the pattern for entering assets. Now I'm going to open another file. I prepared this with some expenses, and what we'll do is when I get this file loaded and I get the asset debt worksheet, we're going to take a look at the funeral expense. Now, one thing I want you to notice right off the bat with expenses and debts and disbursements is that the date of death field is left blank. And that's because the amount of debts, expenses, and disbursements is entered using the Schedules J through M Edit button. Here in this dialog, go ahead, I'm going to click on it right now. And here in this dialog is where you will find an amount field and the Schedule J categories. Now, Schedule J is special in that regard because there are several categories applicable to Schedule J expenses, and the application needs to know which category applies. I'll pull down the Schedule J category box so that you can see it real quick there. Okay. And if an expense or debt is not going on Schedule J, let's say it's going on K or L or M, then you leave you just enter the amount field and you leave the category field blank. Now, the last thing to do is to eyeball the forms that you intend to file and complete any additional fields. There really isn't much to do. It's a matter of tabbing through or looking for the white fields to see if they need completing. Now, an example would be on line 3B down here. You'll notice that it's a white field, and that tells you that that's something that you don't have to make an entry, but that's something that you want to at least give your attention to and see if an entry needs to be there or not. And so what you do is I would just go to these. It'll go automatically by pressing a tab. Here, I'm going to press tab, and you see it went to this field here. And this field is kind of neat because it's neither white nor yellow. It's a bluish colored field, and they're special because they're completed automatically like the tan ones. However, if you can override them if you wish. I'm on one right now, and you can always tell if a field is overridable because, like I say, it'll have a bluish background, and also there'll be an override button on the top. It kind of slides into view when you enter the field, and the button is there right now, actually. But I'm not going to say anything more about that. Let's go to page 2. And again, it's a matter of tabbing through the available fields on the page. I'm not even going to make any elections or other entries on page 2, so I'm going to go to page 3, and I'm also going to scroll toward the bottom where you're going to see all of the subtotals for the different schedules. All completed already. There's nothing for you to do. Okay, now, by way of overview, rather than, I'm going to print the return by clicking on the print button, but wait a minute, I don't think I wanted to do that. Hold on a second, I'm going too fast here. I wanted to tell you another thing. I went on to page 3, I scrolled to the bottom, you saw the subtotals, and I just wanted to add that there's about 16 pages of return here, and I don't want to page through all of them because that would take too long, but I do want to go to Schedule A, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to click on Schedule A and get that up on the screen because I want you to see, this is an example. Let me scroll down there, even down to the bottom here. You'll see everything's totaled. The numbers are in there. The legal description is in there. There's absolutely nothing for you to do. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that because most of the schedules are like that. There's nothing for you to enter. Now, I started to say before, by way of overview, I'm going to print the return by clicking on the print button. And you'll see a dialog where you can select the forms and schedules you want to print. However, the program detects the forms that you used and checks those boxes automatically. Of course, you can select or unselect any that you wish. I'm going to leave the selections as is, and I'm going to click on the Print Preview button. I'll maximize it there. You can see that we're looking now at the return in Word, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the View menu's full screen view so you can see the whole thing at one time with all the paragraph marks and things like that. And you'll see that as I scroll through the return, it looks pretty super. Where there's continuation pages, they've been automatically added, everything's been totaled up, there's really nothing for you to do. 8971's been filled out, and that's it. So I want to thank you for allowing me to take you on a tour of the new P706_17 program, and I hope that you'll tune me in again soon, because we intend to expand the number of FAQ and demonstration videos with regular new releases. So for now, goodbye and take care.